Here's Jeff Paterson, our Canucks reporter, the host of RinkWide Vancouver. How are you?
I'm good. Can I make an appeal here to all of your viewers and listeners to buy bogey juice? Because how many times have you been out with either buddies or you get like paired with strangers on a golf course? Somebody makes a birdie and a guy inevitably reaches into his golf bag and pulls out who knows what, and how long has it been hidden in the golf bag, and then they're like forcing it upon you. I'm like, it's not that I don't want the drink, it's just I don't know how long it's been buried in your golf bag. So do yourself a favor and just refresh the stock.
Yes.
Yeah, right there. Turn the page.
Make sure somebody, that way somebody has some in the foursome as well. I've also done that, right? Oh, what a great birdie. Who's got some? Oh, 4 empty bags.
Well, birdies, we don't have to worry about.
Well, this guy does. Jeff, your big takeaway on the weekend?
That they played better on Sunday against a better opponent than they did on Saturday. Obviously, the 4.5-minute spurt the first period was incredible. Something that the Canucks have never done in 50-plus years of existence. The fastest 5 goals was wild. And as a guy that sits there along press row and literally jots down every scoring play longhand, I missed the second and fourth goals because the first one came, I was buried in my pad, and they scored again. And I all right. And then I kind of caught up again, and another one. And so on it went. No idea what Greg Cronin was thinking. Like, why call your timeout at 5-1? If there was a time to call a timeout, how about 3-1 when your team is still in it? Outside of the 5-minute span, though, in the first, I didn't think the Canucks played all that well. They didn't have to. They're up 5-1 and pretty comfortable. But Anaheim had a couple of second-period power plays that could have made it a 2-goal game. We know that the Canucks have a bit of a sketchy track record, and the Ducks just kind of went meekly and mildly into the afternoon sun. And that was refreshing, too, to be able to leave the building and still have the sun shining on Saturday afternoon. I think no issues with the effort against the Vegas Golden Knights. A much better opponent. I think the Canucks recognize that they would have to give it their all to hang with a team that's legitimately built to take another run to the Stanley Cup. And, of course, Vegas is going to get to plug Thomas Hertl back in at some point. They got a 30-goal guy that's just sitting there on the sidelines, and we know that that's kind of been their MO over the years, to have these players that are parked on the sideline that, they get to bring them off mothballs and off IR just in time for the playoffs. So at 2-1, when Vegas scored the 2-1 goal late in the first period, I kind of thought maybe the game would get away from the Canucks and that they would go mildly. But to their credit, they didn't. And so I agree with Rick Tocchet. Didn't love the third period. They didn't have the puck much in the third period. And ultimately, the better team on the night won the hockey game. But I think fans and how many times have we come here on a Monday and sort of digested the weekend that was and talked about fans not getting their money's worth, and that's been a theme all season long. I think fans can live with the fact that Nils Hoglander comes back into the lineup and like a bat out of hell the first couple of shifts and scores a goal, and Ratu going hard to the net and standing his ground and a rebound there. The kinds of goals that they scored. Sure, the fans would have liked a few more goals. The Canucks would have liked a few more goals. But overall, I thought the effort was all right. But in the end, a better team kind of leaned on them, and Vegas skates away with a 3-2 victory.
Does that first period go down as one of their best or their best periods of the year because of all the goals?
Against Anaheim?
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it has to, just for a team that's been goal-starved for much of the season to score that rapidly. Like, it really was something. And I should go back and look, because I don't know if they scored on 5 successive shots, but I don't imagine that they wasted many shots in that run. And, look, they gave up a goal on the first shot of the game. Troy Terry beats Thatcher Demko high to the glove side. What had Seattle done earlier in the week? Had beaten Thatcher Demko high in the glove hand, and I thought, that's not the start you're looking for Demko or the Vancouver Canucks. And then I thought, they were able to dig in and turn the tide. But when I say I didn't think they played as well against Anaheim as they did against Vegas, Demko was helped out. Ducks hit a bunch of posts in that hockey game, and they've got the worst power play in the NHL, and it was on display for all to see in that second period. So, look, the Canucks haven't run away and hid from a whole lot of opponents throughout the season, so they did on Saturday, and again, they had the advantage of a little more rest. They were at home. Vegas played the late game on Hockey Night on Saturday in Calgary, had to go to overtime and then fly here, and so I thought the strategy seemed pretty sound for the Canucks to try to get the jump on Vegas in the first period, see if they could replicate a similar first period of what they showed on Saturday afternoon. Alas, it didn't happen that way, but still, again, I thought for the most part, first 30 minutes of last night's game, no real problems with the way the Canucks performed.
I, like you, was so pleased for those in attendance who cheered the Canucks off the ice in the first period. We haven't heard much of that, and then a big loud cheer at the end of the game as well. It has been such a miserable season at Rogers Arena. The ticket-paying public deserved that one.
The Ducks game?
On Saturday.
Oh, my gosh. I thought they played pretty well versus the Vegas Golden Knights as well. And given who's out of the lineup, and given what this roster looks like, even if it was healthy, I mean, they played okay. I thought it was an important game for Kevin Lankinen. He's not been very good of late. And it restores some faith, I think, if only from the fans. Maybe management just knew the reason for his struggles of late, but it was nice to see him standing on top of his head again.
Yeah, and over the final 40 minutes of that game, the shots were 25-10 for Vegas, so that tells you just how much of the game was spent in the Canucks zone over the final couple of periods. And you're right. Bottom line business, Lankinen has lost 4 straight now, including last night, but goaltending was not the problem. He gave them a chance to win, much as he did for the first half of the season. Even though they didn't win every time out with him, he kept them in hockey games. And I'm with you, Blake. He had to sit and stew on that 7-6 shootout performance in Columbus for more than a week. That was his last appearance. They had turned to Thatcher Demko. Demko wasn't great against Seattle. He was better against Anaheim, as we said. But for Lankinen, you're probably wondering, when am I going to get back in there, and how long do I have to wear the stench of what happened against the Blue Jackets? And, of course, before that, the Rangers game and that Saturday at Madison Square, where he stopped 7 of the 11 shots that he faced. And even though the Canucks outplayed the Rangers, they ended up losing that one. So it had been a while since Lankinen had won a hockey game. You got to go back to the home game against Winnipeg when they blitzed the Jets before the 6-game road trip. Been a while since Kevin Lankinen has delivered a victory. But certainly the kind of performance that could have led to that result. So, yeah, I'm with you. I don't know what their plans are for the goaltending with 5 games to go. Is it a simple rotation? Do they just alternate from here on out? I don't think you're really trying to get either guy on any kind of run with 5 remaining. And so whether it's 2 starts, 3 starts for Kevin Lankinen, I think for him, I'm sure he'd like to go into the summer feeling a little bit better about his game and ultimately trying to deliver a result. But we know at this late stage, wins and losses don't really matter in the big picture to the Vancouver Canucks.
Is Ratu proving something to somebody right now? That was just Johnny on the spot, but he's in the difficult areas at the top of the crease, and he's made other beautiful plays. He had the drop pass to start that whole sequence. He's not going to be the second-line center next year, but is he making them think twice? Does this affect Suter negotiations, where eventually the price gets too high on Suter and they go, well, it's fine, we'll go with Ratu instead?
Possibly on that front. I think more you're seeing a lengthy audition here, Ratu, between Dakota Joshua and Kiefer Sherwood, and I could absolutely see that sort of being a third line for the Vancouver Canucks next season. A lot of size there. Dakota Joshua, it's been a tough go for him, but he's showing some signs of life down the stretch here. And Kiefer Sherwood has been terrific for the Vancouver Canucks all season. So you've got 3 guys that can be physical, take the body, lean on opponents. There's enough to like there. And the fact that Rick Tocchet has switched things up really all season long, and he's stuck with this trio now for 7 games, and they've been pretty productive. So with Ratu, goals, sure, he's got goals, 4 goals in his last 6 games. You certainly take that bottom line. Again, another really nice night in the faceoff circle, won 7 of his 10 draws. He's been used here a couple of times recently for shorthanded faceoffs just because of his prowess, not so much as a penalty killer, but try to win the faceoff, do your part there, you can get off the ice, and other guys can hop on and take the heavy lifting of the penalty kill. We'll see if they develop him into a penalty killer on top of that, but it just shows the trust that Rick Tocchet obviously is finding with this guy on a team that doesn't have a lot of faceoff guys. That is a separating skill for Ratu without a doubt. So, yeah, I think these are all steps in the right direction. He's got 6 goals at the NHL level in limited time and, sporadic opportunities up and down on the Abbotsford shuttle. A guy like Nils Hoglander scored his 7th last night and has been pretty much a regular for much of the season, obviously, out of the lineup for the last 6 prior to last night. But Ratu, it's not a world-beating total, but... No. 6 goals in limited time. I think you can see, if you sort of scrape away a few of the layers, you can see the promise of a player that And again, only 22. That's the other thing. Like, even though he's been on hockey radar for seemingly forever, he is still only 22 years of age.
Lots of development left.
Yeah, and this is one of the better news stories for the Vancouver Canucks is the second half that Nils Hoglander has had, and that he drops off. He drops into the lineup after coming back from injury, Jeff, and immediately scores another goal. Like, suddenly the extension that at one point we were sweating earlier this season looks like it could be okay, and that Nils can get back to being the 20-plus goal scorer that we saw a season ago.
Yeah, and look, there's been a lot of people that have documented really since Christmas. The underlying numbers have been off the charts good for him. The production didn't necessarily follow, but it's one of those things that if you continue to do the right things night after night after night, you're not going to be denied. Eventually, you'll get a few bounces, a few breaks, pucks will start to go your way, and I think we're seeing that really over the last couple of weeks, before the injury and then to get back in there and pick up where he left off, he's being rewarded. And so another guy, and look, there's enough of them on this team. At the end of the season, we're going to step back and we'll look at the point totals and the goal totals and say, hey, you had 24 last year and you're going to finish with 7 or 8. Unacceptable. But I think really since Christmas, he has played much more at the level of the guy that was able to get to 24 goals a year ago. And I think he's cleaned up a lot of the warts defensively that 3 NHL coaches have had some issues with, right? And that goes a long way. I mean, we know with Rick Tocchet, it all starts with your play away from the puck and in your own zone, and then you go to town offensively. It does seem like Nils Hoglander, something is kind of clicked with him, and maybe it's just repetition at the NHL level, whatever the case. So much more responsible defensively now, and I do think it's leading to good things in the offensive zone.
What do you think these 2 road games look like against formidable opponents? Mathematically, you're on the ropes here. So the dream is dead. They have to know in their heads. Is there a chance they get waxed here? Do you expect them to prove something to a coach that, again, they don't even know if they're playing for their coach for next season? It's a strange set of affairs here over the last 5 games.
Yeah, and I think if you're Rick Tocchet, you probably like the fact that a lot of these top teams, you could say, hey, they're going to take their foot off the gas. They've clinched their playoff spot, but there's so much jockeying for positions and maybe to try to avoid the St. Louis Blues the way that they're going in the opening round. The Dallas Stars still think that they can win the conference, and they lost both games on the weekend, lost to Pittsburgh and then lost to Minnesota, had a third period lead in both of those games. Like, that's not the Dallas Stars that have put together another incredible season. So I think the Stars are going to be motivated that, you're going to see Pete DeBoer kind of crack the whip and try to get them back on their habits. They're so deep up front. They just got so much talent, and that's going to be a handful for the Canucks. Last time they were in there, of course, that was the day that the Canucks traded JT Miller, and Canucks didn't play very well, as you can understand. I mean, quite a blow to the entire operation and organization, and it kind of looked that way on the ice. And then Dallas came to town here, and the Canucks hung with them, kind of like the Vegas game last night. They hung with Dallas for a while, but ultimately cream rose to the crop there, or to the top. And then Colorado, I think that's the test. Like, Colorado with the speed that they've got, and look, as we saw it again here last night with Vegas, Vegas transitioned the puck so easily, and it just felt like they recognized that the Canucks rush defense isn't good enough. You saw the Barbashev goal, obviously. Colorado can kill you. They can make you look foolish, and so I think the Canucks are going to have to be letter perfect, and that may be asking too much, obviously, with the guys that they've got in their lineup, but you're taking on a couple of heavyweights. You're going to get a desperate Minnesota team in here on Saturday for the start of that final homestand, and then one more look at the Vegas Golden Knights in Game 82 on April 16th. So 4 of the final 5 are against teams that are likely going to the playoffs. I think Minnesota, the comeback win against Dallas on Sunday afternoon was huge for them. And so schedule doesn't really let up for the Vancouver Canucks. Final 2 road games will not be easy, and we'll see if they or how they measure up, I suppose, against the Stars and the Avs.
Last review from the weekend, Victor Mancini went on that nice jaunt down the right side. He's played a little bit more here in the last week. What are you seeing from Mancini?
Yeah, unfortunate bounce, obviously, off the back of the skate there. I'm not going to hold that one against him. No. But what an opportunity for a young guy to paired with Quinn Hughes primarily over the weekend with no Tyler Myers in the lineup, and we don't know the extent. Nobody seems to be talking about Myers, but didn't practice Friday, didn't play either of these games. I don't know if he traveled with the hockey club, so we'll have to wait and see. But this is opportunity knocking for both Victor Mancini and DPD as well. And great to see Elias Paterson get his first in the National Hockey League. That's a nice goal on Saturday, too, jumping into the rush and snapping it home. But I thought Mancini struggled. And I don't know if that was the nerves of playing with Quinn Hughes or recognizing that the audition is here and he has to understand where Tom Höglander sort of fits in the grand scheme of things as well. So this truly is an audition for Victor Mancini. But there was a play in the first period off the faceoff in the offensive zone where, he jumped in. Rick Tocchet always talks about diving in. He dove in and he missed, and Vegas broke out 3-on-1, and you can't do that at the NHL level, particularly against really good opponents like the Vegas Golden Knights. There were a few other coverage issues. I thought he was on the ice for 2 of the 3 goals, including the winner. I'm not going to hold the winning goal against him either. But, look, if we're going to criticize his game, I'm glad you pointed out the rush in the second period. That's sort of the tantalizing size of this guy at his size. To be able to motor up ice, recognize an opportunity.
Turn the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think right now there's some good and some bad and still in the development phase for him. But, if people look at these games and think, what's at stake or what's to play for, if you're Victor Mancini, I think you got 5 more games here if you play them all to put your best foot forward to sort of lay your claim to an inside track to a roster spot for next season out of training camp.
So does Max Sassin. After his goal on Saturday, has to jump in and play because of the injury to Nils Hoglander. And honestly, Jeff, we're talking about Ratu and whether or not he can be a full-time NHLer next year. I almost wondered the same thing about Sassin, particularly with this team, because they need his speed in the lineup, even if it's not at center ice.
Yeah, no, you're right. Picked the pocket of Oliver Shillington, made no mistake. Showed some pretty nifty hands as well. And again, a guy in limited minutes here is 3 goals, not a huge total, but has shown enough offensive chops, obviously, and the speed on a team that doesn't have a ton of it, and especially with the uncertainty around Philip Hedl. Yeah, there may be an opportunity for Max Sassin. So, interesting that Sassin stayed in the lineup, and I think that was a reward for the way that he played on Saturday. And Jonathan Lekkerimaki was the guy that came out on Sunday, which, and I said this on social, that I didn't love the idea of Lekkerimaki as a healthy scratch if he's up and on the NHL roster. But in saying that, I get it, because a lot of guys performed on Saturday. A lot of guys have performed here of late. And quite frankly, since the shootout goal in Jersey, it's been a little too quiet for Jonathan Lekkerimaki. And Rick Tocchet kind of pushed back last week when I asked about increased opportunities for the young guy and said, hey, we've got a plan. We know what we're doing here. I don't know if the plan was always sitting him for one of the games in the back-to-back on the weekend. But I wonder, too, is that, just a little poke with a sharp stick to remind him that his spot in the lineup on a nightly basis isn't a given at this stage and that they need more from him. And he's been given power play time. I want to see him shoot the puck. Like on Saturday, when things were going for everybody in this lineup, Lekkerimaki didn't even have a shot on goal. And so, when he's in there, that shot is it's his meal ticket. He's got to take the puck and, be a little selfish. Like, don't defer to Quinn Hughes all the time. Just shoot the puck. Let's see what happens there. So, wasn't shocked that Lekkerimaki was the guy ultimately that came out of the lineup, but we'll see how quickly he gets back in there and what he does the next time that he gets to suit up for the Vancouver Canucks.
Last question. Jeff, did I hear you say I had my face in my pad? Have we moved away from the routine of one single piece of double-sided paper to take notes at the game? Blake, this would be earth-shattering if Jeff has changed his game day routine.
No, I suppose then you put me on his nose because it is still the single page of 8 by 11 or whatever the dimensions of a standard sheet of photocopy paper are. Yes. Telling tales out of school for not that anybody cares how I jot down my notes, but yes, I said notepad. I have a notepad in my bag, but you're right. When it comes to game notes, it is always just a single sheet of paper.
That's right. That's how he works. Have you seen this before?
I have, yes.
Yep.
Jim Robson.
It's got to fit on one sheet of paper. Those are the rules. Thank you, Jeff. We'll talk to you later this week.
All right, guys. Thanks.